The truth about stoning in the Bible. Stoning in the Bible has been misunderstood. This is part 2 about stoning in the Bible. In part 1 of the Stoning in the Bible series, we learned that stoning originated in Egypt and that to stone to death comes from the Hebrew word sakal. In this part 2, we will see that the phrase put to death does not always refer to an execution. Also that to stone with stones can have a totally different meaning than execution by stoning to death. Giving one's child to Molech, the god of child sacrifice, to be burned would, if anything, seem to be worthy of the death penalty. Again, thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. Since stoning can be lethal, we should also consider that phrase, shall surely be put to death. The first use in the Bible of the Hebrew phrase translated as shall surely be put to death occurs in this verse, where it is translated a little differently. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Notice that the Hebrew is exactly the same in both these cases. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof thou shalt surely die. Again thou shalt say to the children of Israel, whosoever he be of the children of Israel, or of the strangers that sojourn in Israel, that giveth any of his seed unto Molech, he shall surely be put to death. The people of the land shall stone him with stones. The Hebrew is exactly the same. Shall surely be put to death in Leviticus, and shall surely die in Genesis. The Strong's numbers indicate the Hebrew words that are used in the original, and they are exactly the same. We know that in Genesis, Adam and Eve did not die immediately, nor did anyone put them to death. The Hebrew can be understood as dying thou shalt die, the start of a process rather than an event. They were not immortal, and death would be their eventual destiny. Adam died at the age of 930 years. Adam and Eve were not executed, and certainly were not stoned to death. Law or principle at first mention, the first use of a concept in the Bible, supports that thou shalt surely die is not referring to an immediate death, but a death as an eventual result of an action. The phrases here both use the Hebrew word muth, and include it twice. In English we would say surely die or certainly die as a way of adding emphasis to the certainty of death. In the Hebrew language, emphasis is added by repeating the word. Thus, in the Hebrew text, it is muth muth. Here is the meaning of muth. In Leviticus 22, the first occurrence of muth is in the kal verb form, with the meanings shown here. The second occurrence is in the hofal verb form, indicating to die prematurely. The possible meaning in Leviticus 22, then, is that the offender would surely die, just as Adam and Eve were destined to surely die, eventually. And not just die, but more importantly, as we will see in a coming video, die cut off from God's people and the covenant. We have a 5-minute video with more detail about shall surely be put to death being the same meaning as in Genesis 2:17, and there is a link in the description. But what about being stoned with stones? That sounds quite lethal, as we saw in video 1 when we looked at the Hebrew word sakal, and saw that it very definitely referred to stoning, as in throwing stones at a person until they were dead. However, this is interesting. In Leviticus 22, the word for stone is not sakal, but regam. The fact that it is a different word for what is thought to be the same action, as in verses examined in the first video, suggests that we should take a second look. Remember, Moses wrote both Exodus and Leviticus. The fact that he used a different Hebrew word indicates a different meaning. Consider this verse from the story of Achan. And Joshua said, Why hast thou troubled us? The Lord shall trouble thee this day. And all Israel stoned him with stones, and burned them with fire, after they had stoned them with stones. We will examine the stoning of Achan, one of the more difficult events to explain in the Bible, in detail in a later video. For now, take note that all Israel stoned, regam him with stones. They had stoned, sakal them with stones. To anglicize it, Israel regammed him, and then they sakaled him. This suggests two different events, as two different words were used. Ancient Hebrew is not like modern English, where there are many different words for the same thing. The second event, stoned, sakal them with stones, suggests that Achan was still alive after the first event, all Israel stoned, regam him with stones. So we should consider the possibility of a different and non-lethal meaning for regam. And indeed, there is a different meaning for regam, which is also supported by evidence from the New Testament. That different meaning will help us to see that God never wanted Israel to be stoning people to death. In the next video, we will get some help from Paul and the book of Revelation to understand the meaning of regam. Subscribe to this channel here and see the next Stoning in the Bible video here. Watch it to learn something really surprising about the meaning of stoning.